it's time to start a few more seeds. So I thought I would show you the process kind of from start to finish, make a little quick video showing you all the steps. And so let me turn my camera around and get it set up. So we have our seed starting mix. Remember, when you're starting seeds inside, you want to use something that's really light and fluffy. So this is straight out of the bag. I use the seed starting mix from Espoma. And it has lots of perlite and stuff in it, so it's nice and light and fluffy. I'm going to be adding water to this to make it be able to kind of hold together. That way the seeds will start off with some moisture, and then when I put the humidity dome over top of the seed starting tray, that will help hold that moisture in to keep the seeds from getting too dry, which would cause them to probably not germinate. So I'm going to get this start getting some water in here, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I basically just use an old kitchen pitcher. I dump some water in there. Definitely going to need more than that. You can always add more. You can't take any out. So I put some in, kind of squeeze it together. Give it several good squeezes before I decide it needs more. This is something that after you've done this a few times, you'll get a better feel based on how much you have, how much water it's going to need. We need more. The goal is to have it so when you squeeze it, it holds together, like kind of like that, but doesn't have water dripping out. So that looks pretty good. So now what I do is I make a little space. I get the tray that I'm going to use today. I'm going to be starting 3 or 4 different kinds of seeds and different amounts of each one. I'll show you the one tray a little bit slower, but it's the same process. All right, so these are trays that have 24 cells. They're a good size. A lot of things you may not even have to pot up if you start them at an appropriate time and don't start them too early, unless they're just a really fast, strong grower. They've got a nice little hole in the bottom. These come from a company called Gardeners. I think Gardeners Supply. Their website is gardeners.com. I can try to remember to link that down there. But basically, I just set it down and I shovel a lot of soil or dampened seed starting mix on the top, kind of spread it around, and then I go through and kind of tap it down with my fingers. Because like there, you can, I don't know, you can't see that one. There's still quite a bit of room. There were air pockets. So I go through, just gently kind of tap them down. I'm not trying to compact it. I'm just making sure that there's no big air pockets that are going to collapse once I get everything in there. And then I've got a seed with not enough seed starting mix to grow in, way down deep in the cell. So top it off again. Clean it up. Double check everybody. There can be a little bit of room, but I want to make sure that they're pretty full. Unless you're starting seeds that need to be planted fairly deep, and even then you can use a pencil or something to poke a hole to put them in. But you want these decently filled up. All right, so this one is now ready for planting seeds. Once I stick it in the rest of its container, I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. I'm gonna fill up my other tray that I'm going to be using today. It is a collection of six cell trays, very similar to what you would get annuals if you buy them at the store, but they're a little bit bigger, a little bit deeper, I think. And I got this from a company called Greenhouse Megastore online, and they are awesome. They've got a lot of stuff very economical priced, and these, I will say, are pretty flimsy. They're pretty much a one-use deal, but that's okay. They don't cost a whole lot. And then this gets set down into what's called a 10-20 tray. This one's broken, but maybe so it's just a big black tray with no holes so that any water doesn't come out. So speeding this up, let's get this filled up. All right, so we are ready to put the seeds in. I wanted to show you the rest of the tray stuff here. So this is it's a little messy. It's been used. So this is the bottom part of what this tray goes into that came from the gardening website. And inside is a little like shelf. And then this is what's called a wicking mat. I think that's what you call it. And you stick it so that part of it comes down in here. And then once things start growing, you can add water under here. And the idea is that the water would wick up through here and then be available on the bottom for the plants to be able to draw up that moisture from underneath, which, if that works, helps keep things from maybe mold or algae growing on top if you've got especially things that are going to be in here for a while. So this one's now ready to plant in. And the other one that was the 6 sets of, oops, set this down before I drop it. So the 6 sets of 6, and I knocked it over anyways. Anyways, sits down in a tray that's called a 10 by 20 tray because it's about 10 inches by 20 inches. This is one of the really sturdy, heavy-duty mega sturdy ones from Greenhouse Megastore. And this all just sits down here. There's not a tray. There's not a wicking mat. So if I want to try bottom watering these things, I'll just lift one of these up like this. I have a watering can that's got a very skinny spout. I can just stick it here, let the water go in, let it fill up, maybe 1/4 of an inch of the bottom of the tray, and then just check it after a few minutes to make sure that the water has actually been drawn up into the soil and that it's not just sitting in the bottom where it could then cause other problems. So let me get my trays settled in a spot where I can put seeds in, and then I'll show you putting in the seeds. All right, so I think I'm organized and ready to start planting. I've got 2 kinds of lavender that I'm going to put in here. One is Munstead, and the other is English Tall. Both of these did really well for me in outdoor containers for winter sowing last year. I did put some in some winter sowing containers again this year, but I want to try some inside as well. And this whole tray is going to be lavender. So I think what I'm going to do is, depending on how much I've got in the tall packet, probably do at least maybe 2 or 3 of the 8 length rows for the Munstead, and then 1 for the English Tall. I did have quite a bit of tall that I planted out in the flower beds last year. So the Munstead, I think I want to be a little more judicious. And depending on how many seeds are in the packet, I'll just put 1 or 2 per here. The tall, I may just see that, I can fit them in there. In the bigger container, I have a couple of different types of plants that should like it in a more damp environment or shady area. So I've got some Bergenia. Also did this out in the winter sowing. I've never had this before, but it looked really pretty. And some pink turtlehead chalone, definitely for shady habitats with moisture. I have a couple places that could use some more plants, and that also looked really pretty on the website. And then I have a couple different kinds of foxglove. I've never grown foxglove before, but it looks just gorgeous in some of the pictures I've seen online, so I thought I would give it a try. So I'm going to do 2 6-packs of each of these because I know I have plenty of places for that. The foxglove is, the 2 different colors are going to only get each of them 1 6-pack because, for one thing, I think they're a tender perennial, so they probably won't make it and come back next year. And they're kind of an experiment. So anyways, I'm going to, if need be, I'll put more than 1 seed per cell to use up all the seeds. And so let me get planting. Oh, one couple tips. You always want to make sure that you look at your seed packets to see how deep they need to be planted. A lot of things you can put on the surface. These say surface to 1/8 of an inch. So I am going to just sprinkle them right on top. If I need to plant something a little bit deeper, I have a garden marker here, which is what I use to make all my plant tags, because if you use a Sharpie, it will eventually disappear, either due to sun or other conditions. So if I need to plant something a little deeper, I've got a garden marker here that I'll just make a little hole like that and then cover it up. But this is the ones that I'm using this year, garden marker, got it off of Amazon. All right, let me get planting. So now that I've got all the seeds in there, I'm going to sprinkle a light layer of something called vermiculite over the top. This is something that can just help hold in moisture, stabilize the moisture. It should maybe help prevent mold, although that doesn't always work. It just gives a little extra layer of kind of like a protection in there. And then now this guy's ready for the what's called a humidity dome. This is going to help hold moisture in while these seeds work on germinating. And then once they have germinated, this will come off and we'll be ready to just let them grow. So I'm going to do my other container now. And then these guys are ready to go under my grow lights and just grow. These are called pelleted seeds. So they put like a little coating on them. Pelleted seeds, my understanding is, don't really store well. A lot of other seeds will. Can be, stored and used a year or two later. These don't really last more than about a year. So I'm going to use all of these. I also like that they're brightly colored so you can really see them when you put them in the little trays here. And another reason that, one of the main reasons that a lot of times things will be pelleted is because they're super, super small. What I'm trying to do is place these kind of apart from each other, so that if they germinate, I can separate them and pot them up easier than if they're all kind of squished together. So here's some foxglove that is not pelleted, and you can see the seeds are super small. All right, I'm going to finish getting these all planted, spread some vermiculite on them, and then I'll get them under the grow lights. Thanks for joining me here today in Aunt Susan's garden.